Hola! Not like anybody asked me, but I'm back. Kind of back. Back on the street, back in the cold. Back on my trying to get home business. In the wind, without a microphone. I just wanted to pop in, make a real short statement about a couple of things. One, I'm on the verge of getting a new job, which is pretty awesome. Someone asked me earlier today, or said like, oh, I hope you enjoy it. I'm like, well, it's not my ideal job, but it's a job that's going to pay better and is in a different location. And some of the things that go around having the new job are going to be better for me. But as far as enjoying the work, probably not. Until I'm designing and manufacturing my own types of things, or I'm in my own business working for myself, probably not really going to enjoy it. And why does it always have to be fucking windy when I'm trying to say some shit? I'm sorry. Yeah, I wanted to actually step in and just say something that's going on with like gas prices. Gas prices everywhere in the world are really high right now as a result of not even what's going on over in Europe, because it started going up before that. And some of the speculations are that it's part of the movement to go to electric energy and resource management, worldwide resource management. So some of the speculation is because there are certain resources set up in certain places around the world, whoever has access or availability to these resources, they're going to be on this new wave of transportation, energy or resources. So as we all know, people have been trying to move away from gas motors and pollution and all that stuff, which I think on a global scale is a reasonable thing to do. With a lot of the developing sciences, they will tell you that some of the changes going on with the climate and weather is due to certain pollutants, whether it's partially natural, which of course it is. The earth has a self-calibrating mechanism, but there is some effect by people, like acid rains. Anyways, it's a global effect, and if the scientists are right, we're in for a lot of trouble. If they're wrong, it's still probably a good thing, because you don't want to see plastics in the ocean and pollution on the beaches, and you know what I mean, air pollution. There's a lot of evidence for it. So if you believe in evidence, thank you for watching. If you don't believe in evidence, just mute the video and let it play out. I just wanted to kind of jump in and say a couple things about that, where we're talking about a global effect, everybody being affected. And if you think that like, oh, it doesn't affect me, or as long as you're not hurting anybody, like that kind of thing, it depends on your scale. Because you say like someone smoking that's far away from you doesn't affect you, but the smoke goes in the atmosphere, they more than likely will just throw their cigarette butt on the ground, and then it doesn't biodegrade, and then maybe an animal eats it, and the animal might die. So in a way, yes, it does. All of our actions and choices, behaviors with regards to the planet as a whole affects each other. Whether you're conscious of it or not, it's all one system. It's all one planet. We only have one to deal with. I mean, the moon doesn't count, and Mars is still far-fetched. So in that sense, yes, everybody's behavior that is in some way negative or detrimental to the environment and affects the system in some kind of way, whether we understand it yet or not, yes, we are all accountable, all of us. Doesn't matter what the lines are. If you're human and animal alike, and what we're doing to our animals, pets included, it's all part of one and the same system. We have to look at it in a global planetary way. And in that way, yes, everybody's actions affects each other. So yes, it does cause some harm. You can't just ignore it. So what's going on with the political side is, I think it's either not accepted on all sides that this is the move that people are making, and it's all for the good of everybody. The same way that wearing a mask was for health, But what we have are corrupt morons in government that we don't trust. So when they say something, we don't know if it's real. I mean, they've been self-serving so much in the past. How are we to believe that what they're doing now is for the good of everybody? In the vein that I just talked about, where it's one planet and everybody that's on the planet gets affected by some of these choices. Industry being number one. But you know what? I got to turn this back on consumers, because if the consumers weren't buying certain things or didn't stand in line and allow for certain technologies to take place, there wouldn't be an industry trying to sell it to you. No business is successful if consumers don't pay for the product or service. Now, there are some sort of monopoly services like obviously power and resources. When you only have one company, then that's the only thing you do. But you know what? People in society line up to give their money to these companies, and I don't know that all of us are truly being accountable for our choices. How do our keep on trucking? How do our choices, economic voting, when you vote with your money, like if there was a vending machine with every brand and most people bought one brand, then that brand would get most of the money. That's economics, that's voting. So consumers, when they're buying something or paying for something and making the choice that either the cheapest or the easiest, the way that the system grinds everybody's gears into making like the most desperate choices possible, where if you don't really have a financial choice left, you're gonna buy the cheapest. But then what happens is things like, companies that own a lot can sell the cheapest, and then they keep winning because of the design of the system. So unless you're choosing to spend more money on less for a different reason, then the economic voting slides all in one direction. And that's what we can see as a trend, that the system itself is somewhat broken and corrupt because there are no checks and balances on these things, and the politicians and people get greedy and design it in such a way that only some of them get to play. Real complicated. But anyways, when we're talking about like planetary effect and climate and planetary health, waterways, animal populations, food, resources, even health. If you look up like statistics in the States, like 1 million or more people in the States have diabetes. Now, is it their choice? Is it their fault? Is diabetes genetic? Some of it is. The precursors might be. But again, it goes back to like, what are we taught? What are we educated with? What are our choices based on? Do we understand really the choices we're making? Do we understand how they're affecting other things? And my guess is probably no. We don't understand it. And the more you don't understand in a system that's complex like our societies and economic system is, the less you know, the more likely you can be manipulated. Whether you know it or not, you're definitely part of the system. It doesn't matter what side you're on. Up, down, left, right, doesn't make a difference. You're still part of that system, and every choice you make with every dollar you spend or labor you put into a work or business, it all has consequences. All of them. Whether they're doing their best or they're doing their worst behind your back, it all makes some sort of an impact. So now what's going on with nuclear power being one of the cleanest, albeit has a stigma for being dangerous, is one of the more sustainable types of energies that produces the least amount of pollutions that affect like air and water per se. And those resources can fuel the electrical power needed to generate for like not commercial, but public transportation. Not commercial, because I don't see them making an electric airplane yet. And I don't know how they're trying to get electric trucks but that's a far way off. But think about this. Think about this. Would you exchange your ability to personally transport yourself around like in a vehicle and lose the ability to have your goods and services shipped across country? Think about if they didn't have enough fuel, just per se, fuel for airplanes and trucks to move things around the planet, would you give up a personal vehicle to allow that fuel dedicated to those services in a transition fashion? Because everything will be electric or somehow changed, but how do you get from here to there? So that's my question. My question is, in a matter of planetary change in economics and all that, do we really understand what kind of effect we're having? And if it's for the good of everybody, isn't a transition period worth it? Depends what you believe and who you trust, I guess, but there's got to be something going on right now, because you've got two different sides of a potential war, an economic and resource war for some of these powers. So I don't know. Anyways, stay healthy, stay aware, and let's try to get through it, right?